There is literally nothing that is going to change your life in the same way as if you just do. Just get up and move. You don't need anything. It doesn't cost, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to make yourself better. What it costs is the discipline and the drive to try and get something more. And when a man understands that, pretty much all objections melt away.
Welcome to the Hard Way podcast with Joe De Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Races. We're teaching you how to overcome your obstacles in your life the same way we teach our 10 million plus Spartans to overcome obstacles on the course. With insight from the smartest, most accomplished experts from every corner of the world. Get ready to elevate your life today.
Joe De Sena here, CEO and founder of Spartan and host of the Hard Way podcast. I've got my buddy Frank Schwartz on the line here. He is the CEO of F3 Nation. If you don't know what F3 is, you've been living under a rock. He's also the Nantan. Frank's going to explain what a Nantan is, and he's going to explain what F3 is.
Absolutely. Hey, first, let me just acknowledge and just say, am I allowed to be just like a little geeked out because I'm here on the podcast with you? Is that okay?
Let's do it. Let's
get
geeked
good.
out.
I'm a little nerded out because I love Spartan. Spartan was one of the very first things that I started training for when I started kind of down my own personal fitness journey, right? And so I'm a huge fan of Spartan and of yours, Joe. I watch all your stuff, so I appreciate you having me on. But so a Nantan is, and this is something that anybody who's familiar with F3 at all, or as one becomes familiar with F3, they'll recognize that we have a lot of made up crap, and we use a lot of weird, language and stuff that's kind of internal to us and that sort of thing. So Nantan, the other thing you'll realize is that we steal everything. We come up with nothing original. We just borrow from other places and try and use it to our advantage, right? So a Nantan is an Apache word, actually. It means cultural and spiritual leader. And it kind of implies that there's a powerlessness to it, right? Because we distribute the authority, we distribute the leadership to the people on the ground in the places where they ought to be, right? So it's fun to say I'm the CEO of something or that I'm the leader of a thing, but really I have very little authority as terms of kind of affecting the individual outcomes in all the different places where F3 exists. And so to answer your second question, F3 is it's an international network of men's workout groups that are really leadership groups disguised as workout groups. That's kind of the way that we roll it. And the F3, the three Fs are fitness, fellowship, and faith. And for us, we think a man can't be much of a leader if he doesn't take discipline and control over his own body. Then he has to have some intentionality around the people that he hangs around with and surrounds himself with. And then he's got to have some component of belief in something bigger than himself. We don't, subscribe to a particular religion. We don't recommend any kind of faith tradition of any kind in F3. We simply say, you have to recognize and acknowledge that you're not the king of the world and that you serve something greater than you, whatever that thing may be. And so that's kind of the three Fs.
Were you the founder of F3?
No, so I was not the founder of F3. So the founder of F3 was a guy named Dave Redding. And he, kind of ran things in a very, tight-knit, sort of very loose kind of Wild West kind of a way for about 10 years. And then he handed it off to a couple of us to sort of take over for him. And then recently it kind of came down to, the other guy stepped out. So it's just me. But so I didn't found it. I've been in F3 or I guess participating in F3 for about 10 years. And I have a very good relationship with the founder. We're pretty good friends and have hung out quite a bit. So I have a pretty good idea of the vision, but yeah.
I remember those early days. I feel like I was there in one of the locations. I can't remember which one because I've been to a few of them. I got my nickname. I know you guys give out nicknames to everybody.
We do. I don't think I knew that. What's your nickname?
I think it was Skimmer because I used to clean
because of the pool bit.
Yeah, I used to clean pools as a kid. I'm pretty sure they called me Skimmer.
That's pretty good.
And that happened in Ohio, but that was not the first one I was at. For anybody listening or watching, it's basically a really well-oiled machine, morning workout, rain or shine, from what I remember. Really humble, salt of the earth type people there, to your point around fellowship. And in the very early days, I said, hey, all you guys, just come out and do events. We'd love to have you at events because it's so symbiotic with what we do.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I love about what you're doing, what we're trying to do as well is that, there probably has been known for forever, right? But there is a resurgence over the last, call it 10 years or so of an acknowledgement, if you will, of the fact that, look, with all the love in my heart, our nation is fat, and people are dying at unprecedented rates of stuff that's totally 100% controllable. And I mean, when I heard, your mission to get 1 million people off the couch, right? I mean, the initial drive, right? Like that couldn't be more, in line with what we're trying to do as well. Because again, I think fitness is where it starts. And that's what I love about Spartan and about F3 Nation as well, is that we start with the fitness, but we don't let you stop there. I mean, you look at the community that has been built around Spartan and people that identify as Spartans, and that becomes part of who they are. They're tight-knit group of friends and people, might be people that they run races with. It's a very similar kind of a thing where, the guys that you work out with at 5 a.m, again, like you said, rain or shine, heat or cold, man, it doesn't matter to us, right? We build that emotional and that social durability. And that's part of what propels us to become better men in our homes, better men in our communities, and to lead in the way that we believe we've been called to do.
It's crazy, right? Because most of the world is out buying programs. They're going to conferences. They got to listen to podcasts. They're reading books. They're buying superficial things, cars, this, that. Really, all you need is a little cold, tired, and hungry early in the morning.
I mean, that's right. You can't get any better than that. That's right? Totally true. Yeah,
it changes your whole day. It changes everything.
It changes everything. It was probably close to 10 years ago now that I ran my first Spartan race, right? I mean, if you think that for 1 second that medal's not still hanging, in my like that's because that's a thing, right? And so there's something about the dirty and the dangerous and the difficult things that we do to help us to unlock who we really are inside, right? And I find that to be especially true, and I think it's true probably both men and women, but I find it especially true amongst men, and that's who we serve, right? And so men who get out there and for their whole lives, they've just kind of been told like, just tell you what, sit in the cubicle, bring home the money, and that's it. That's all we really need you for. And the first time there's a realization that, a guy gets out there and he goes, wait, I'm capable of more. I didn't realize I was capable of more, and that's what drives me to continue to do, what we're doing as far as planting, new workouts and getting more guys to just come out. I mean, that's the other beautiful thing about it. You mentioned kind of this consumerism mindset. We still think that there's something that we can buy, or there's some program we can go through, or a class that we can take, or, just one more podcast. And then that will be the magical insight that will totally change my life. Dude, and I know I'm preaching to the choir when I'm talking to you and probably your audience too, but there is literally nothing that is going to change your life in the same way as if you just do. Just get up and move, right? And you don't need anything. You don't need anything. I mean, our workouts are free. We charge nobody nothing for, to come and to participate in a workout. A Spartan is not a terribly expensive endeavor, right? Where you're really going to spend the money is in the pain and suffering leading up to training for it. That's it.
Right.
That's where you're going to spend your time. Yeah. But it doesn't cost, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to make yourself better. What it costs is the discipline and the drive to try and get something more.
Frank, it can't be good if it doesn't cost anything, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
We've been conditioned. It's conditioned. True. It's got to be expensive.
It's very true. It's very true. I guess, and I often say, to guys, I'm like, I know, I get you. Because wait, these guys aren't professionals. Nobody's trained here. And I'll tell you, like, if you're coming to us looking for the best workout you've ever had in your whole life, I'm sorry. Could you get a better workout by spending a bunch of money and yeah, probably, there's professional trainers that can do all kinds of stuff that we're not going to do. We don't, that's not what we're for. Right. Our job is really to help you understand that there is more to your life. And that you can be more than you anticipated being, or that you thought you could be. It's really to kind of remove the self-limiting beliefs, right? And that, no matter how much money you spend, ultimately is free because it's a choice that you make.
I think you just nailed it. I've been doing this for 24 years, and as you're talking, I'm thinking when I started it, I didn't articulate what you're articulating right now. I didn't think, oh, I'm going to change 100 million lives in those early days. I just had some fun doing it. I felt really good, and I like roping people into it. But as time progressed and I met people like you and I met your group and other groups, it's like, oh my God, how could it be that this barbed wire and this metal and this t-shirt is so powerful? How could it be? But you just nailed it with that sentence, which is, I guess we both remove self-limiting beliefs. That's it, right? In a nutshell.
I mean, if you really had to boil it down, and that's, our stated mission, and you know it, but I'll say it for the audience, right? Our stated mission in F3 Nation is to plant, grow, and serve small workout groups for men in order to invigorate male community leadership. That's what we say we are about. And we do that. And we do that in a lot of ways, right? There's different programs and things, and they're all free. So some are workout programs, some are leadership programs, webinars, things like that, stuff that we're doing to train each other and help each other. All that's fine. But at the end of the day, the thing I think, and you just summed it up very well, is I think the thing that we are the best at, and I think that Spartan does very well. I think our buddies, over at GoRuck do very well. I think a lot of us that are in kind of this same ecosystem, if you will, is we help. That's exactly it. We help people recognize and go, wait a minute. I don't have to believe all this crap that people have been telling me. I'm putting this on myself. This is stuff that I've made up or that other people have made up for me. And I don't have to live like that. I don't need permission to be the person that I was called to be. I don't need, I don't need a certification to tell me that I'm good enough now.
How hard is it to bring people in? Like, when I think about YPO, or I think about some of these other groups that tend to center themselves around, like, a dinner, some drinks, whatever. Those groups are probably more attractive because they're selling the sizzle.
Yeah.
Right? You and I are selling like pain.
We ain't selling much. Yeah, I know. Right.
Who the hell wants that?
Well, it's funny that you say that, but I think that what happens is, at least this is my experience, right? Is I'm 49. You're just a couple years older than that, I think. But, and 20 years ago when you started looking at this, and about 10 years ago when I started looking at what, at all this stuff, and it was for the same reason. And some people are just wired toward what I believe to be the truth, right? Which is, it can't be that easy. It can't be that easy. I don't know if I can buy that, because what happens is, again, kind of this 40s time frame, right? You recognize that, well, I don't really hang out with my buddies from college anymore, so I don't really have them as friends. The people that I probably hang around the most right now are people that I more tolerate than anything else. Like my wife's friends' husbands, or my kids' soccer dads' buddies, that kind of stuff, right? These aren't my kind of people. They're just people, I don't know. And I get home at the end of the day, and worked hard all day, and you sit down on the couch and you got this beautiful home that you live in, and you probably just had a couple of, promotions at work. So you just got promoted to manager or director or something like that. Right. And so you're on your second or third kid. You had to move out of the small house into the bigger house. You had to get the little bit bigger car than the smaller car. And you find yourself sitting there and you're like, man, I think maybe I've made it. Of all the things that people tell me that I'm supposed to do, it looks like I've checked a lot of these boxes. And you sit on the couch at the end of the night and you turn on Netflix, heaven forbid. But that's what you do. And then you start looking out the window and you can't remember what you watched, because all you can think in your mind, your heart, Joe, is you go, is this all I'm for? Is this all there is? And I don't know if it's true or not, but it is the truth that I know. It's my personal experience, right? So that's all I can tell a person, is the only way I know of to get out of that is to get outside and to start working and to push yourself beyond the limits that have been created for you. You know what I mean?
And again, you and I are two alike, so we might be living in our own echo chamber right? Like when I say these things, but like on our farm up in Vermont, like we talk about psychologists, just generally our society talks about psychologists. People do go through some really rough patches. I just never really understood it because I didn't want to be in that constant loop of talking about the very thing that was eating at me. But if I went outside and chopped wood, or I got on my bike and I rode 200 miles, like, that thing was gone. Right.
Some of those things don't matter as much anymore. Like I forgot what they were. It's funny that you say it though, Joe, because there's actually research right now that I was just reading last week that talks about the fact that therapy may be causing us more harm than good because of that very thing. You know, one of the symptoms of depression is rumination over negative thoughts. So every time you go in to talk about it, that's what you're doing. You're just continuing to ruminate over these negative things over and over and over again.
You don't even know how happy I am hearing this, because I thought that maybe I had a problem because I was so against. My mother found yoga, meditation, health food in the very early days, in the 70s. And we were in this really tough neighborhood where people went to jail for 20 plus years. So you had to be tough. You couldn't rat people out, like all this stuff. And so I never knew if my aversion to like therapy and was, I'm not going to be a wimp. I want to be tough. Right. But I'm so glad you just vindicated me. Like, no, it turns out like you can't sit there and talk about it forever. Let's just move past it.
It absolutely. So here's another funny thing that I think you'll appreciate is, so I did my undergraduate and my graduate work, both in psychology. My intent was to be a therapist because I knew that there was like, we've got problems in our world that we need fixed. Right. So I worked in mental health for about 10 months and I was like, oh, we're not going to fix it like this. Like this is terrible. These people are nuts and there's too high an incentive structure to keep them nuts.
That's an interesting sentence for anybody, right? Too high an incentive. Like, think about it. If you were a psychologist and you've got 40 clients coming in paying you, whatever, a couple $100 an hour, do you really want those clients not coming in?
I'm not going to say that all of them are like that, right? But I am going to say if you are in that field, it's probably worth asking yourself the question and going, how incentivized am I really to make people better? How incentivized am I really for them to solve their problems or learn to solve their own problems? And for me, and I think this is one of the things I love most about what we do in F3 Nation is we don't give anybody fish, right? In the old metaphor, right? You couldn't buy a fish off me, right? But I will teach you to fish all day, every day, right? My belief is that what we're supposed to be doing is, if we're really about invigorating male community leadership, it shouldn't just be like, oh, I taught you some leadership lessons and then sent you on your way. What I ought to be doing is I ought to be teaching you how to be a leader, then how to pass that on to other people, right? The only way this country gets better is if all of us get better, right?
Right.
And so again, foundationally, we believe that begins with the fitness. You got to have some kind of discipline over how you train your body and what you put in your face, right? And what you put in your mind, anything that you ingest, really, you got to have good discipline and control over those things, or else you're going to live a chaotic life. You're always going to be reacting to the things around you. And that's not going to get you to any kind of situation where you're living in a way that you can leave a legacy for the generations behind you, right?
So what's next?
For F3?
Yeah.
So, one of the things that F3 is benefits from is the fact that we do have a nonprofit arm, right? So we've got a foundation and we accept charitable donations and things like that. To this point, we've kind of used them to try and gift and bless lives of other people, maybe in less fortunate areas or whatever it might be. But we've actually come to a realization recently where we said, we're not a charity and we shouldn't be trying to be a charity, and we're not a business. And so we got to stop trying to be a business. And so I think what we've decided, and actually mentioned GoRuck, Jason was the guy who really challenged me on this hard. He was like, you guys got to figure out what you're going to be when you grow up. And I was like, what do you mean? I know what we are, right? And, but that's what we really kind of came down to is we're not a business. We're not a charity. We're a movement. We're a movement. And so if we're going to act like a movement, then the things that are next for F3 is we're going to, and we have been, it's kind of systematically shedding things that are not 100% missional. Right. And so our goal really is to spend our money, time, resources, everything that we have in either letting other men know about who we are and what we do, and taking those guys that are sitting on the couch at the end of the day and looking out into the space and going, is this all there is? Is this all I'm for? Right. Helping those guys understand what we're about. Right. And then hopefully, as we like to call it, EHing, emotionally headlocking them. You can't actually headlock people. Right. So we emotionally headlock them to come out to a workout. Right. So that's number one. And so we're going to spend a lot of time, money, and resources and letting those men know who we are. The other thing we're going to spend time, money, and resources on are the men that are already in F3 and already doing F3, to prepare them and teach them how to teach men to fish. And when we say fish, obviously we don't mean just work out. Because again, I think what they ought to do probably is they ought to come to a workout. Then they probably ought to get on like the Spartan mailing list, and look at, what I mean? Like do those workouts, like whatever you got to do. Right. And then find something to train for, find something to prepare for, find something to invest your, to have a goal to get to. So that then when you've done it, you can go, son of a gun, I just ran, whatever it is, right? You pick which one you did, right? I just ran 8 miles and did 40 obstacles. And everything in me hurts, and I'm probably going to be down for the next 3 days, but the feeling, there's something that switches inside you, after you do something like that, and you're changed forever.
Limiting beliefs are gone.
And so we're going to spend a lot of time teaching men how to teach other men to do that and prepare them to do those kinds of things. And then really it's going to be about, once we know what leadership looks like, and once we're teaching other men to lead, it's going to be coming to people like you and to other organizations in the community and whatever, and saying, we know what leadership looks like. We know how to lead. So let us help. Let us help. Involve us so that we can help you become the things that you want to become. Help you. You know what I mean? There's going to be guys in our ranks, of course, that are going to come up with great ideas and reinvent the wheel in some way, and that's fine. I can't wait to see what they come up with. It's awesome. But mostly, I think where we're going to spend our time and the things that we're going to spend our focus on really is looking and going, what exists, and how do we take the men that we have trained and shaped and taken those self-limiting beliefs off, remove the goggles, as it were, right? And how do we plug them into places that are already doing amazing things and exponentially change the world instead of us trying to reinvent something? That doesn't make any sense. Right?
No, I love it. Well, listen, how do people find you?
The easiest way to find me personally, you can dark helmet. I feel like I probably should explain that. I will. Dark helmet at f3nation.com, or you can find us online at f3nation.com. You can find a workout near you. The new website launches on June 30. I don't know when this is going to play, but you'll have the new website you can go to. But the easiest place to find me is email or darkhelmet at f3nation.com, or you can find me on Twitter at darkhelmetf3. Those are the places to find me.
I wanted to add, we want to help. So, we probably overlap in geographic locations around the world. Any of our events that you want to use as a way to energize the community, expand the community, whatever, just let me know. Consider my events your events. So you could send a bunch of people out. I don't know if we've done it or not, but we'll get you a code. So all those people could sign up for nothing. Maybe they got to donate to you so you guys could stay solvent, right? We want to make sure you can't run this thing forever.
As much as we'd love to believe that would be possible, it's not.
Yeah. So use our ecosystem. You should also consider, just pick one of my crazy events somewhere in the world: Hawaii, Croatia, Abu Dhabi, Costa Rica, and maybe radiate that particular event too with a big group. Again, on us. Because especially given the name you started the whole conversation with, like, to have a tribe, to have this group, like, you got to energize them once in a while in person together. So,
yep. Oh, Joe, I love that. I'm grateful you would offer it, and very much appreciate the fact that all of us are, again, it's a Venn diagram. It overlaps in a lot of places, and I appreciate your mission of trying to make the world a better place, man. I really do.
So listen, I've heard my share of stories. Tell me what the objections, when you're out recruiting some folks, some men that need this, what do you hear?
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure you've heard similar ones, right? Where they're like, a Spartan? No, that's for the, in fact, those were my objections, right? When I first heard of F3, I was like, that sounds very difficult. I'm not sure I'm made for something like that. So we hear a lot of things. Usually the first one that I hear a lot is, it's too early. 5 a.m. Oh my gosh, what are you, nuts? I haven't seen 5 a.m. in who knows how long, right?
The birds wake up at 5 a.m. Right.
I'm like, well, are you better than birds? Well, okay, then get up and go, right? And so, it's like anything. Like, if a guy will not change, or is not interested in getting better, then 5 a.m. is a great excuse to not come out. But if he's really hurting, if he really, really, really is looking at his life and says, but I got to do something, then 5 a.m. is a pretty low bar. And I always tell him, I'm like, well, you don't have to come twice.
That's right.
Like, like you can't get up one time at 5 a.m, buddy. Like that's not possible for you. Well, I guess I could do it one time, right?
What a great ad we should run for Spartan. You don't have to come twice.
That's right. I mean, it's true, right? They're like, it seems too hard. Hey, do me a favor. You've looked in the mirror every morning of your entire adult life and you've said something was too hard. And you've given up on yourself so many freaking times. Like, why not let this be the day that you stop doing that? Does that sound fair? And usually that'll get a guy to be like, all right, I'll come once. And I'm like, if you hate it, we can tell this story, obviously, somewhat exclusively because we're free, right? I just go, hey, look, if you hate it, double your money back. How about that? Right? Guaranteed. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. But I'd say that's probably the first one. Then a lot of times we hear like, guys will be like, I hear your workouts are pretty intense, and they are. So I probably have to get in shape first. And I'm always like, what are you talking about? Like, do you get well before you go to the doctor? Like, I don't understand what you're saying to me right now.
I'm going to clean my car on the way to the car wash.
Yeah, exactly. I would hate for the car wash guys to look at my car and be, I'd be embarrassed by the fact that it's dirty. I'm like, what are you going there for? Yeah. So most of the excuses, and this as well as anybody, most of the excuses that men give for not wanting to come out are simply just reasons that they desperately are clinging to that status quo because just whether it's embarrassment or just fear or honestly like comfort. I mean, you've talked to him, I'm sure, or you're familiar with the book, The Comfort Crisis, Michael Easter. That's our life, man. We travel from one 72-degree climate-controlled environment to the next. Waiting for nothing to happen because my gosh, if something happens, I might have to do something. That doesn't sound very good.
I saw my second son this morning, who works really hard, staring at the cold plunge for a good 15 minutes. he was in a comfort crisis.
Yes. Because I hate, of all the things, like there's a couple things that I just do not, and cold plunge is one. I hate that.
Give me a success story.
Oh man. You get kind of your typical ones and you hear these too, because, being fitness oriented, guys who've lost 100 pounds or guys who've lost 200, whatever it is, or guys who are, reversed their, cholesterol problem or whatever. And, all those kinds of things. And the fitness related ones are really great. I think the one that, and mostly because it's super recent, there's a guy that I work out with on a pretty regular basis, kind of a mentee of mine. And, he's pretty new at F3. He's only been coming out for maybe 6-8 months, something like that. And he hit it. And he's, some guys just get it right out of the gate, right? They go once or twice and they're like, okay, something's different here. This is different. This isn't a workout. I don't know what is happening right now, but this is different. And it is. It's part of that community and all that kind of stuff. But he grabbed it for himself, and he's mid-30s kind of guy, and he's like, man, this is amazing. And he's got a younger brother, right? Well, his younger brother's on his way to total self-destruction. Just drinking too much, marriage on the rocks, all this different kind of stuff. And these are good guys. I mean, nice guys. But his brother expressed to me, we're meeting about, having lunch or something. And he gets a little teary because he says, I was sure I had lost my little brother. I was sure of it. And we got him out here. We got him around the right kind of guys. And he has completely turned his life around. Right. And that's the kind of thing. I mean, and Joe, same with you being a big international organization, like you get stories like that constantly. And that's the kind of thing that I'm like, just like you said, like you sit back sometimes, you're like, maybe I don't want to be in charge today. Anybody think of that? Maybe I want to take a day off. Right. But I can't. I can't because
not do it. Right.
Yeah, it's programmed in there, man. Yeah. Those are the best ones is where you look and you go, yeah, a guy got skinny. That's good. He could do that a lot of ways. But when a guy changes his life and really the blinders come off and he sees the world open in front of him, I'll take those all day.
So what do you tell two brothers like that? Like, what are the tips? They don't want to come in. They're being resistant. I don't want to wake up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier for us sometimes, I think, because you can talk to men a little bit differently than you can talk to the general populace, right? So usually I just say, I'm so sorry. You stand to pee, right? Like that's how you live your life. Okay. I don't want to hear any more excuses. Like who is it? Right. No, but seriously, like I think the biggest thing we can do to help overcome objections. And this is a principle we teach constantly. One of our credo, we call it is it goes, leave no man behind, but leave no man where you find him. Mm. And so there's a kind of a built-in deep love for other men and for who they can become and what the potential is in every man. And I think when we start to play on those things and help guys understand that, hey, we're not just here. Like, I don't get paid anymore. Joe, I'm a volunteer. I don't have a salary. Like that. I do this because it means everything to me. And so once a guy realizes I'm not in it for the money, I'm not in it to grow some kind of weird fitness empire. So I don't, or cult or something. Although we get blamed for that a lot. I'm there for them. I'm there for that man. And when a man understands that, pretty much all objections melt away.
Love it. You're the man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it.